Do you like mysteries? To wander through the enigmatic mist of the inexplicable? Great. I'm Merc, and here you'll find what you're looking for. Welcome to my domains. The truth dissolves into the mist.
The cold waters surrounding Antarctica hide more than the world is prepared to confront. In 1997, deep in an oceanic region where sunlight never penetrates, an acoustic signature unlike anything previously recorded surged through a network of hydrophones. It was low, rising in frequency with an unnatural smoothness, powerful enough to be detected from thousands of kilometers away. Analysts would later classify it as one of the loudest underwater sounds ever captured, yet it came from a place almost entirely devoid of life large enough to produce it. When the signal was isolated, its pattern resembled something biological, but on a scale outside the boundaries of known marine species. The ocean is vast, but not silent. Its trenches groan under shifting tectonic plates. Its glaciers fracture with the weight of entire continents, and its creatures communicate through miles of water. Still, the bloop was different. It had texture, depth, and amplification that suggested movement rather than destruction. Researchers who studied the waveform noted that it rose with a fluidity that mirrored vocalization more than geological impact. But if it was a call, then something inconceivably massive had produced it, something alive. For months the hydrophones continued to monitor the region, a desolate expanse near the Antarctic Circle where winds cut through the air like blades and the sea seems to swallow light. Most recordings returned nothing but static and distant echoes, yet occasionally faint signals appeared. They were fragments, disconnected but similar in shape, almost like distant shadows of the original pulse. These anomalies were dismissed at first, blamed on weather interference or equipment error, but the patterns kept surfacing, repeating in ways that could not be explained by coincidence. As scientists attempted to triangulate the source, they found themselves drawn to an area near the Pacific Antarctic Ridge, a stretch of seafloor scarred by ancient volcanic activity. The depths here were extreme, plunging into trenches that even advanced submersibles struggled to navigate. Temperature, pressure, and isolation created an environment so hostile that very few expeditions had ever gathered complete data. What little information existed suggested that the region was still shifting, awakening in slow geological pulses, but nothing in its history hinted at a sound of such magnitude. Curiously, during the weeks surrounding the recording of the bloop, unusual wildlife behavior was reported across multiple research stations. Humpback whales altered their migration route. Orcas traveled in irregular formations as if avoiding something. Seabirds circled far from feeding zones, their patterns breaking centuries of instinct. Biologists noticed these anomalies but had no reason to link them to a deep-sea acoustic event, at least not initially. When the data from the hydrophones was finally released, it circulated quietly among scientific communities until independent researchers began to question the lack of a definitive explanation. Icequakes were loud but chaotic, yet the bloop had structure. Volcanic fissures could vibrate through the water, but not with the consistency found in the waveform. Something did not align. This discrepancy fueled speculation, pushing the mystery into a space where the line between science and the unknown blurred. As debates intensified, previously unmentioned military recordings surfaced through unofficial channels. They described disturbances detected weeks before the bloop. Low-frequency pulses not strong enough to trigger alarms, but noticeable when analyzed retrospectively. These signals originated from a similar region, hinting at a sequence rather than an isolated occurrence. The idea that something had moved through the depths began to emerge, subtle but persistent. Pressure sensors on unmanned equipment deployed in the area registered variations inconsistent with seafloor activity, suggesting displacement caused by mass. A mass that no one had identified. Toward the end of the season, a research vessel passing near the Antarctic convergence reported faint vibrations along the hull. The sea was calm, the weather stable, and instruments showed no seismic events. Yet the crew recalled a deep resonance traveling through the water, a low oscillation felt rather than heard. They shared the story without attaching significance to it, unaware that its timing aligned with the trailing echoes of the bloop. These observations would only gain attention months later when analysts recognized the acoustic similarities. With each new clue, the mystery deepened. The idea of an unknown marine creature began gaining traction. Not because it offered a dramatic explanation, but because it fit the data better than the official narrative. A biological origin, however improbable, made more sense than ice fracturing with such rhythm and magnitude. But if something enormous moved beneath the ice shelves, the question was not only what it was, but how long it had been there. Undetected, in one of the most monitored oceans on Earth. Some specialists proposed that the bloop was not a singular event, but rather a signal embedded in a larger cycle of activity happening beneath the Antarctic waters, a cycle human technology had only recently become capable of detecting. What puzzled them most was the absence of secondary disturbances that would normally accompany a geological rupture. There were no harmonic tremors, no aftershocks in the acoustic spectrum, no cascading noise expected from collapsing ice structures. Instead, there was silence, a silence too precise to be natural. As years passed and the signal remained a subject of debate, attention shifted to deeper anomalies recorded across subglacial lakes. Acoustic instruments detected vibrations that traveled in smooth arcs, as if something moved beneath layers of ice thicker than skyscrapers. These readings showed a pattern of displacement traveling steadily, with no seismic bursts that would suggest glacial cracking. Some scientists argued that water channels below the ice were shifting, yet the consistency and velocity recorded contradicted known hydrological models. Environmental teams stationed at various Antarctic outposts reported unsettling observations. Animals displayed erratic behavior around certain coastlines. Pods of dolphins avoided sectors they had frequented for generations. Even penguin colonies exhibited signs of agitation, forming tighter clusters and vocalizing more frequently, traits usually triggered by aerial predators, not the depths. These anomalies added to a growing suspicion that something vast was influencing the ecosystems below. Eventually, fragments of data from classified naval systems were quietly leaked to researchers known for studying unexplained oceanic phenomena. These documents referenced low-frequency anomalies following migratory paths inconsistent with ocean currents. The trajectories appeared deliberate, weaving along trenches as if following topographical markers. The implication was unsettling. Whatever produced the bloop might not have been stationary. It might have been moving. Interest intensified when submersible drones deployed for geological mapping recorded sudden magnetic fluctuations near the Pacific Antarctic ridge. There, instruments malfunctioned briefly, causing corrupted footage and distorted telemetry. When analysts restored what they could, they found snapshots of something obscured by drifting sediment. A silhouette that lacked any recognizable structure but occupied an enormous volume of space. The official explanation cited equipment failure caused by mineral-rich vents. Yet those familiar with the scans noted that the distortion seemed to bend around an object, not originate from one. Further complicating matters, several deep-sea probes deployed near the southernmost hydrophone array returned with pressure anomalies on their outer hulls, patterns resembling sustained contact rather than accidental collisions. The spacing of these indentations created the impression of something gliding past them with immense force, brushing against the metal like a presence too large to avoid. Engineers dismissed it as debris impact until multiple probes showed nearly identical markings. As all these elements converged, the original Bloop recording took on a new significance. It no longer seemed like an isolated burst, but rather the most audible fragment of a larger, concealed event. Attempts to reproduce the sound artificially failed because the resonance required a biological structure capable of enormous displacement, far surpassing any known marine organism. Even colossal squids and blue whales could not approach the amplitude without catastrophic internal damage. Yet the Bloop had carried across thousands of kilometers. In more recent years, oceanographic satellites detected unusual thermal signatures rising from deep fissures near the same region. Instead of erupting upward like geological plumes, these heat patterns expanded horizontally as if displaced by movement. No eruption, no plume, no seismic disturbance. Just warmth spreading through the black water in smooth gradients. The phenomenon repeated sporadically, always in areas associated with the original triangulation of the Bloop. Despite public explanations claiming glacial cracking or shifting ice shelves, the classified reports accumulated a different narrative. The anomalies formed a chain, each linking back to that single moment in 1997, suggesting that something stirred beneath Antarctica, something massive enough to alter migration routes, distort instruments, and generate the loudest underwater sound ever recorded with a signature that hinted at biology rather than geology. 2. This day, no official acknowledgement confirms what the data implies. The ocean still guards its secrets with layers of pressure and darkness that human technology barely penetrates. But those who continue to study the Bloop know that the mystery has not faded. The signals may have grown fainter, the reports more controlled, yet the patterns remain. Something moved in the deep, and perhaps still moves, beyond the threshold where science meets the unknown, in a place where sound travels farther than light, and where silence can mean more than absence. The Bloop endures because the ocean remembers, and because the unanswered question remains alive in the cold water that hides everything humanity refuses to face.
Did you like this mystery? And what is your theory? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed it, then like and share. I'm Merc, and I'll be waiting for you in the next mystery.